All right, so back in our Ignition Designer, and we are going to basically do some more edits for graphical usage. So if we compare this against our FactoryTalk example, there's things like the flow meters and stuff like that we can add in here. There's the third pump, which I forgot to put in there, and then we're going to put in a mixer as well. So we do need to actually space some of this stuff out a little bit better. So I'm going to use the arrow key to kind of move this over and drag it down just a little bit, and then move this over so that I have room to put the actual mixer, right? So it's important, right? So when you think about this type stuff, is you give yourself room, you know, and you come in here. So I'm going to move this over here. I'm probably going to shrink this back and then put AVO4 over here so that it's not as confusing about what valve is what. So it's easy to understand that this right here will be AVO4 and this right here will be AVO3. And then I'll just copy this piping and then Control V, Control C, and then Control V to paste. And then we'll come over here and put the pipe right here, drag it over to feed in the tank, and we'll get it to the right size right here. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to come over here and copy this pump. So we're going to copy our pump and we're going to paste it, and then what we need to do is flip it. Okay, so we're going to go this direction this time, so we need to space this stuff out. What I'm going to do is drag this, or actually let's drag this over to here, drag this over to here. We'll get rid of the elbow. I no longer need it, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to feed in top of the tank, or feed in top of the pump, just like we did before. And what we can do is we can line this perfectly up with the actual piping. We can just use our arrow key to get perfectly in line, and then copy this next pipe and paste it down here and get the right sizing in here for that. And that way you can see the piping is kind of coming together a little bit better. So now again, so we did add this pump and we copied it off of the number 1 pump, so keep that in mind. So we need to change the name to pump 3. We need to come down here to color, and then we need to change from pump 1 to pump 3, and then we want the IP again, and then we choose right there. Now we can check this again. This is pump 01. This is pump 3. Let's do 03. Make them the same, right? You're gonna do, in that way this is pump 02. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so all of this is corresponding to what we have talked about so far. Let's also move our indicator of what valve that is over there, and then this is going to be tank level. So now at this point we can actually run a batch, or we can actually stop and just wait until we can put the proper things. Like, again, I think it's important to put at least the flow indicators in here, and then probably the mixer. So let's go over here to our shapes and go over here to get the actual information. And when I mean information, I'm talking about the actual factory symbols up here. So we want to choose our factory symbols that we want to use. Again, so now we want a mixer. So we'll go down here to motors, see if the motors have anything. They might have something. The wastewater is pretty good about having stuff, but let's see. Let's go to, we get basic, and we can go in here to the basic stuff and see if there's anything in basic motors. I don't really see mixers. I see tanks. I see wastewater again. Let's go into pumps. Really don't want to use pump, and let's just go to mixers, or go to motors. So let's go to enhanced motors, and then we'll pick one that we can flip upside down, right? Or we can reorient, I should say. So this will be pretty good, right? So we can just drag this over here, and then what we can do is we can reorient this a little bit so that it's a mixer on top of here, right? We obviously want to change the size. We don't really want it that big. Let's see, we actually undo that, and then so let's change the size of it a little bit to get it where it's just a mixer motor, and we can probably adjust the length just a little bit. So this will be our mixer, and that way we can actually, and remember, if we're coming in here, we're going to do color, right? We need to come over here and do that right there, right? So this is going to be colored again. So right now the solid color is going to be that white color, so that's obviously not what we want. We want the gray color that we've been using, and if we want, we can come over here and see that. So let's come over here and add our gray color. Let's see, tags. We can go in here and look at the tags we want to use, and this is going to be the mixer. Now this is going to be a power flex, so power flex, and we're going to look for the active bit. So the power flex I active, I believe that's exactly what I used over here for the animation. If I go to edit and go right here to animation, you can see the color I used, power flex 525 input active. So that's exactly the same thing I believe I have picked right here is the PowerFlex 525 I, which is input active. And then for zero, we want a different color. We want that gray. Let's probably do a darker gray. And then for active, we're going to do green. Okay, so that's a little different green than we've been using, I believe. So let's choose that. It's a little bit darker, I think. So this is our mixer. Okay, so this will change colors depending upon, you know, if the mixer's running or not. So we do have that now. We can actually run a batch. Now I will say that I do have a PowerFlex drive hooked up to this. So with that said, you know, it will make a, you know, a slight noise when we do start up a batch. So obviously to come in here, could we have picked something better? Maybe this would have been better. I don't know. Let's orient that a little bit. Let's flip that. And let's supplement that over here just like this, and shrink that down a little bit, and maybe that represents a mixer a little bit better. Shrink that down just a little bit, and then move that down. Okay, so that kind of does look like a mixer a little bit better. Let's just see what it looks like when we can do our colors and stuff like that. So we want to come over here and give it some color. Not a real big fan of that, but because this is going to be on a grayscale. If you think about it on a grayscale, this is it's not going to look like we want it to look, right? So if we think about this right here on a grayscale, and this right here on that green. Let's see, we'll do a green. Nah, this is the wrong green. And we'll pick right there. So I'm not a big fan of the way that looks, to be honest with you. So let's take away that and let's put the other one back. And I kind of like to, you know, edit it a little bit, but hey, let's just go ahead and leave it like that for right now. And let's see what we have for symbols for like process. Let's see, we got process heating. I want flow meters. So we got valves. Let's see if we got any kind of flow meters or anything like that would be close to it. Sensors. And that way we can just get something that's very similar. Okay, this fits really well with our application. So let's go ahead and throw that in there, and then we'll size it correctly. So this is going to be obviously sized to fit our application, and we'll throw that into the piping just like that, so that we get something that very much is very similar to this micro motion looking thing that we did inside of the FactoryTalk Site Edition. So with that said, we can still come over here and size this a little bit better. I think this is starting to look a little bit better. And so we have one right here. We can copy that and paste right here. We have another one right here. We could flip this. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You can flip it upside down. That way we know, which direction it's going. And there was one over here. Okay, so this, and copy paste, and then we will come over here and turn this one more time, just like that. Now this one needs to be shrunk down a little bit, and then we'll put that just like that. And I think it's fair. We can probably shrink these down too, right? Make them look pretty decent, right? Now they kind of fit the scale a little bit better. All right, so now we need the readouts, right? So what did we use right here? I used the flow actual, or flow meter actual flow 1, and then this was flow meter actual flow 2. So let's come over here and add our tags in here, because we haven't added those tags yet. So browse, we'll look in our ignition again and look for our global tags. And we'll come in here and look for our tags that we talked about. All right, so this is going to be, again, going back and forth. Let's look at the substitution for that. It's going to be flow meter. Okay, so we're going to look for the word flow meter and see if we can find that. So flow meter actual flow, and we have 1. I believe we're using 1 right here. Yeah, we're using 1 right there, 2 right here, and then I don't believe we use I believe this is 3, right? So let's just double check that as 3. So that's what we'll do. Okay, we'll actually throw the whole tag structure in there so that we can pick all 3 of them, and we'll hit apply. And then that way we can come over here, and then, like, say for instance right here, this could be flow 1, and we'll just drag this over here just like that. It's going to be a numeric label, LED display. Yeah, we can do that. We can do a LED display just like that, and then that way it gives us, a nice look to it, right? And we can always adjust this stuff. So let's do LED display again. Come over here, put that right there, give it some space, and then that way we have right here. What we want to do is we're going to do the number 3 right here and put it right here, LED display. We're going to shrink this down so that it fits right in here. So that is a little bit of a tight fit, but we can always scoot this over just a hair, right? Scoot that over just a little bit. Okay, so now if we run a batch, we should be able to see how much we're putting in and how much is going out. Okay, so we can actually run a batch now and see the process work. All right, so let's go ahead and run a batch just to see everything work. So we're going to hit clear faults first. We need to make sure we go to our project, go to up here again. Very important that when you're testing stuff, you put the com read write on. So we want to go ahead and do that, or else you'll see that exact same problem we just saw. So we're going to start a batch, and as soon as we start a batch, what should happen is AVO1 cuts on, the pump cuts on, flow starts through the flow meter, and you can see that. Now we may need to scale that a little bit better, or we may need to widen that out just a little bit, but you can see that is actually trying to achieve its goal. So let's edit that a little bit so that it gives a little bit better reading. Yeah, I think for all of these we're going to get a little bit better. Okay, so then there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 200 pounds, right? So we talked about 200 pounds or 200 gallons in from the master batch tank, and we're just going to go through here. It's going to go through AVO 1 to the pump 1, through the flow meter to AVO 3, and then you can see that right now currently we have put in 91, and you can see that it correlates with what is inside of the mixing tank, just like it did, or just like it did on the FactoryTalk example that we did when I originally built this. Again, we want this to look very, very, very similar. Obviously, it's not exactly the same thing because it is a different platform. Things are done different. This is an open source type situation, so I mean, there's a lot of flexibility into this when it comes down to it. And FactoryTalk's gotten a lot better too, as far as what they can integrate with. So the newer versions, let's just say 13 and 14. But with that said, I felt that it should be a good understanding or a good teaching method to use and go ahead and build the same thing in Ignition, right? So to show everybody, the capability, right? So we're pretty close to 200. We're getting up there. And again, we can adjust that number. So we got 200 right now. So now we're going to go ahead and put in our corn syrup. And we should have a number, I believe it's 100 gallons is going in here. Again, so it goes through AVO2, out of the corn syrup tank, AVO2 to pump 2, through the flow meter, through AVO4, into the mixing tank. So you can see it's adding up right here. So currently it's to about 245. And then the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the caffeine. And then as soon as the caffeine is in, the mixer is going to start. Now what I've done for the sake of this video to keep it short is I've reduced the mixing time from 15 minutes to 1 minute. And that's for multiple reasons. So the PowerFlex drive I have is a PowerFlex 525. It is a little bit noisy when it cuts on, just because it does control a real motor. So it is a little bit noisy. So I just want to minimize that for the video's sake, and also to speed things up, because as soon as it gets done mixing, then it goes to the next phase. So you see the mixer cut on, and you can probably hear the drive running in the background. So we have added 200 gallons to from our master batch to the mixing tank. We added 100 gallons from the corn syrup to the mixing tank, and then 20 gallons of caffeine to the actual mixing tank. So altogether it's going to be 320, and that's basically gallons. And then we're going to, again, mixing right now so it's just 1 minute. We're almost at that 1 minute mark. I mean, so basically 40 something seconds. So we're almost at that 1 minute mark, and then this should stop, and then AVO 6 should cut on, the pump 3 should cut on, and then we come over here and it dump over to the finished product. Now what we should do, I should say, is come in here and add our naming culture to our pumps as well. So just like our mixer, just like everything else, right? We need to understand, just like we did with the AVO1, AVO2, AVO3, we need to do pump 1, pump 2, pump 3, pump 4. So I'm probably going to go do that, and that way it's already pre-done on the next video. But in this, obviously, adding the things that we did and adding the components we have, we're starting to make this thing look and feel just like it was before. Now there is a 1 minute settle time in this actual process. So it's a 1 minute settle time, and you can see it's at 43 seconds right now. So as soon as that's done, it will cut on AVO 6. This is right here, and then it will cut on the pump, and then cut on AVO 7. Then it will start delivering the actual product from the mixing tank that's already been mixed to the finished product tank. So at this point, it's going to go ahead and reset all the flow meters. It's going to come over here and start delivering out of the mixing tank and through AVO 6 to pump 3, through AVO 7. It's coming out of the mixing tank into the finished product tank. Now, as soon as it gets everything out of the mixing tank, then the batch is fully complete. And again, we could add indicators for this and stuff like that, but we are slowly building this project to be somewhat like we did on the FactoryTalk, right? So eventually we want it to look nice and clean like this, right? When it comes down to it, I mean, we do have a smaller screen. I can widen the screen out if I want to and move everything out, but I figured let's keep it compact. Let's keep it the natural size that things come, so that if you're trying to build this, or you're trying to build something very similar to this, you can do the exact same thing, right? You can, I mean, you don't have to rescale everything. You don't have to redo everything. You can just open the window. That's the default window. You can go ahead and build from there. All right, so we almost have everything out of our mixing tank, and as soon as we are at a completely empty and everything is transferred to the finished product tank, then we come over here and you can see, right, you'll see this. You'll see everything shut off. So now we're at the point where 4, 1, and 0. So everything's shut off. The batch is fully complete now. Now we don't have any indicators to tell us that, but again, we're moving this thing along slowly. So hopefully you learned a lot from that video. And again, I do appreciate it because it was a longer video. So I appreciate your attention when it comes to that. But when it comes to learning Ignition, little small things do help. And having the ability to progress and learn, through a project is, I think, highly valuable. I mean, it's priceless really, because you're going to have to do the same thing one day, or you could be doing it right now. I don't know. But you might need the help. So with that said, hopefully this did help you, and we'll see you guys on the next one.